Joining me now, 4th District Congressman Representative Bruce Westerman, Republican of Hot Springs, and Chairman of the House Committee on Natural Resources yet again. Congressman, good to see you.
Roby, good to be with you. Thanks for having me on.
I feel like everybody in the Arkansas congressional delegation now has been on the Oprah show and she was giving out gavels. You get a gavel, you get a gavel. How cool is it to have everyone in really a particularly powerful seats of Congress?
It's an honor to get to be part of that team. We actually did a team photo the other day. The staff decided we needed to get together and everybody hold their gavel. I don't know if that's been put out yet or not, but it's kind of a neat time for Arkansas to have every member of our delegation chairing something. And I look around. You got the four corners of the intelligence. The what do they call it? The group of eight.
That's
Two of
right.
those are Arkansans. You got Tom Cotton and Rick Crawford there. Then you've got Senator Bozeman chairing the Senate Ag Committee, which is extremely important. You've got French Hill chairing Financial Services, which is extremely important. Representative Womack, who's chaired the full committee before, is what we in Congress call a cardinal. He's the chair of the Appropriations Subcommittee on Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development, and then I get to chair the Natural Resources Committee. So, well, we stay pretty busy.
Just a bunch of slackers, it sounds like to me. Let's get your reaction to the president's State of the Union speech this week. Just what did you hear in that you think will move quickly in Congress?
Well, a lot of the things he talked about in his America First agenda are things that we're trying to put in the budget reconciliation bill. There are a lot of limitations on budget reconciliation. One thing that is, if there is anything easy to do in budget reconciliation, it's tax policy because it definitely has a budget nexus. But, outside of budget reconciliation, President Trump talked about several issues that I think hit home in Arkansas. He talked about more domestic steel production, and Arkansas is now, I believe, leading the country in steel production. That's not in my district, but it's in Arkansas, and that makes us all proud. He talked about more domestic lumber production. That's definitely in my district. There's opportunity for us to do a lot more of that. I guess you saw where Weyerhaeuser has announced a $500 million new plant down in Drew County. That's very encouraging. And then he also talked about the Golden Dome, which a lot of those components in the high altitude missile defense system will be made down in Camden, also in the 4th District at the Highland Industrial Park. So all of those things, along with energy, I think Arkansas has got tremendous energy potential, the lithium deposits, and the role that plays in the energy sector. I really see a bright future for Arkansas with the things that President Trump talked about in his State of the Union address.
Let's talk about a couple of things that have raised some concerns in Arkansas. Let's start first with possible cuts to some federal parks. This would be something that would be under your jurisdiction in your chairmanship capacity here. Have you had any conversation or gotten any additional clarity on how deep those cuts may be, and is Arkansas protected from those cuts?
Yeah, so I've talked to Secretary Burgum quite a bit about this. I've had a call with him for close to an hour last week, talking specifically about the parks. And then I saw him at the State of the Union address and got to visit with him some more. But, the thing that I took away from it is how excited the Secretary is to make our parks more accessible and to give Americans a better experience at the parks than they've had in the past. And if you look at the role of the administration is to administer the programs of the federal government. And I don't think they see these cuts to probationary employees as a hindrance to being able to achieve their objectives of making the parks better. And when I say better, I'm talking about new systems like we don't have this so much in Arkansas, but out west in the big parks, when you try to go into a park, oftentimes you're sitting in line for a long time. They're actively trying to hire about 5,000 temporary employees for the summer visitation season when the numbers are up so much. But on the other side of that, there is the human aspect of it, of people who lost their jobs. And I don't think anybody should be celebrating that somebody's lost their job. Particularly, these are members of our community who are hardworking, and um, they faced a cut. People in the private sector see that quite a bit. I did talk to Secretary Burgum about the specific cuts in Arkansas in the Park Service, and uh, DOI has gotten back to me and my committee and said there were 5 Park Service employees on the probationary status that were terminated. 4 of them were in the Buffalo National River Unit, 1 at Pea Ridge Battlefield, and that's it. There weren't any in Hot Springs, but the data we're still waiting for is the people were offered the fork in the road letter that went out, and I don't know how many people in the Park Service in Arkansas took the fork in the road to leave. But we have seen some reductions in visitors hour at the visitor center in Hot Springs, and then the announcement, I guess, of visitor center closing, one of the visitor centers on the Buffalo River closing.
Yeah.
I talked.
Are you okay with that?
Well, I think that's going to get resolved. I talked to Secretary Burgum about that, and he was a little bit surprised to find out that happened, because he said, a lot more people, like in Yellowstone, were probationary employees that were terminated, and said none of the services have been disrupted in big parks like that. So, the response I got was, we're going to figure out how to do this, and they're also reviewing a lot of these terminations. So I don't know if that means people are going to be rehired. We've certainly seen that with some of the stuff that Doge has done. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to all work out, and Americans are going to actually have a better experience on their federal lands. There's cuts to the Forest Service, and forestry is something that's very important to me. I'm still the only forester in Congress. I've got a big bill in D.C. here today that's in Senator Bozeman's committee for a hearing, the Fix Our Forest Act.
Give me a brief overview of what that act does.
So the Fix Our Forest Act, it allows the federal land managers to actually manage the forest, and it also does things like let state forest agencies, like it'd be like the Arkansas Forestry Commission, to do more work on federal lands. And we don't see this so much in Arkansas, but out west, you got a lot of tribes who have expertise in managing their tribal lands, and it would allow them to do more management on the federal lands. So the big deal is it has to do with fire and what we call the wildland urban interface. Everybody has seen on the news what happened in Los Angeles. And we have all these homes and communities that are being built right up in what's called the wildland urban interface, and they're subject to catastrophic wildfire. We saw 16,000 homes destroyed in around Los Angeles at a cost of about $250 billion. But there's 44 more million homes in the U.S. that are in the same type of scenario as those homes were in Los Angeles. So this is a huge bipartisan bill. A guy named Scott Peters, who's an environmental attorney from San Diego, is my lead co-sponsor on it. We got 64 Democrat votes in the House. All Republicans voted for it. And if everybody had been in Congress that day, it would have gotten 2/3 vote and could have passed on suspension had we run it on suspension. But when something passes on suspension, it just highlights how bipartisan it is. Yeah. And I think it's got real opportunities in the Senate to go places.
In the short time that we have left, let me get your take on what's happening with the president's use of tariffs and how that could affect foresters, timber industry, farming, manufacturers. It has created a lot of uncertainty from the business leaders that I talk to. Is this just going to be a period of time? Do you think that we're just going to have to rough it out over several months while these tariff battles play out? Or have you had some conversations with the administration where there are some guarantees where you think that Arkansas's financial interest in what's happening with these tariff wars is protected?
Well, we saw this with tariffs in President Trump's first administration, and it all pretty much equaled out. And I think some good things came from it. I believe he's using this as a negotiating tool. And if you look, it's always reciprocal tariffs. it's countries that are putting tariffs on our goods where he's saying, okay, if you're going to have a 5% tariff on our goods, we're going to put a 5% tariff on your goods. If you've got a 20% tariff, we're going to put a 20% tariff on your goods. So what he's
Well,
working for,
we didn't have any tariffs on Mexico or Canada that we've levied on here. So,
well, no, Canada's got tariffs on products that go there. A lot of the issue in Canada is on agriculture products that are going into Canada that they put tariffs on. But I think at the end of the day, the goal is to get fair trade. And, I saw this in the first go around. It's painful being in Congress when an administration puts tariffs out there because you start getting calls from businesses who are being adversely affected. I think about the Cooper tire plant. I guess it's a Goodyear tire plant down in Texarkana now. There was a tariff in the last administration on the steel that goes in the tires, and you can't buy that steel anywhere else. So it was going to automatically raise the price of tires and could potentially make those U.S. made tires non-competitive with imported tires. So you have to start going to the administration and through a program submit things that get an exemption for the tariff. That it's going to adversely harm jobs in the country. So I don't like going through all of that, but I know that if we need to help people out who are being adversely affected directly like that, there's ways that we can do it. But I think the tariffs are going to be used to get better trade deals, and then I think we're going to go on with life, and things are going to be fine.
all right, you've just ensured you're going to get a lot of calls into your office for some help.
Hey, we're already getting calls, Roby. 202-225-3772. We're here to help.
All right, he's Congressman Bruce Westerman. He represents the 4th District of Arkansas. Thank you for making time for us, and we will look forward to catching up with you in the near future.
Thank you, Roby.